Not all of you know my age, but based on my years, I was a little bit more than a year under bar mitzvah when the Rebbe came out in Tovshim Mem Daled with the Takana of Limud of Rambam. Bepashtus, most children my age, Lav Davke learned Rambam, and if they did, Bepashtus it was Sefer HaMitzvahs. But Baruch Hashem, Zochisi, that I began learning Rambam, 3 Prakim Rambam, from the beginning of the Takana. And I want to take this opportunity to be Makir Tova to my father Zol Zayin Gesund, who, now that I'm older, I understand the real Mesiris Nefesh that was entailed and involved. He took a little boy, and mit Apashtus, there was no Chochmes. If the Rebbe came out with a Takana of Limud Rambam, Muzmen lernen Rambam. In the beginning, it wasn't really clear. I don't know if anyone remembers, if the Seder of Limud Yom Perek Echad, in the beginning, in the Hakdome, will be the same as Gimel Prakim. We understood that Bepashtus it'll be the same. So the first day of the Rambam, we sat down and we learned the Hakdome of Rambam. Then the next day we learned the Minyan HaMitzvahs and V'chein Holo. By the time we realized that the Limud of Perek Echad LaYoim was a different Seder, beginning from the Hakdome, we were stuck. And my father would take me and my brother every single day and learn with us Gimel Prakim Rambam. Sometimes 7 o'clock in the morning, at night, during the day, whenever there was an extra moment, we would sit and learn Rambam. And it's chusay that I had this chus, even at my age, to be able to say, I probably didn't learn every day, I missed from time to time, that I was able to learn already 30 machzorim of Rambam. Bocher in 7 in Yeshiva and Olatayra. I want to just share with you certain hergeshim and feelings that as a bocher gave us extra chayis in Limud Rambam. This is famous. But whenever the Rebbe used to travel, sometimes you could see it on the videos, the Rebbe always or usually was standing or sitting with a Rambam in the car and learning Rambam. And to us bochrim, it gave us a meirendike chayis to continue learning Rambam. But just to share with you one small episode or story that I myself witnessed. It was one Sukkis, Cholamayit Sukkis in the morning. The Seder was, on Yontif it was 8 o'clock, and Cholamayit it was 9 o'clock. The Rebbe would come out to the Sukkah to bench Lulav and Esrik. And after the Rebbe bench Lulav and Esrik, the Rebbe would open the door, and the Meir Harlik would go in, and he would take the Lulav and Esrik, and he would go stand for the people to bench them Rebbe's Esrik. What most people didn't know was that a few minutes after, about 10 minutes later, he would leave the Lulav and Esrik with someone else, and he would go into the Rebbe's Sukkah to be Mesader Mezoinus for the Rebbe. He would Mesader some Mezoinus, he would go in, and then he would go out. That was his Seder and his Chus. So I had a shtick. I used to stand behind the door in 770, the front door, to be able to peek into the Sukkah to see the Rebbe when the Meir Harlik would go in. The Maskirim used to sometimes, "Geh weg von da, wo stehst du da?" But I used to try to make sure to stand. It's one particular Cholamayit Sukkah's morning. It was raining outside. And I remember he opened the Sukkah door and I saw a tzir that stays with me ad hayom hazeh. And whenever I learn Rambam, it gives me a chayis and a cheshek. The Rebbe was standing in the Sukkah with his hat and jacket. The rain was coming down. Somebody was standing because it was raining, I imagine. He was standing with his Rambam with both hands like this. And he was standing and shuckling, as if he medaven shmanes like this, shuckling and learning the Rambam. And this tzir, I'm just giving you hergeshem al tzabocher, this tzir gave me azah extra chayis and an extra koch in limud Rambam. Oz loy evoish, says a busha, if a bocher or anyone, any chassid doesn't learn epis achelik in the limud Rambam. Towards the end of Sefer Hayad, the Rambam says in Aloche Dalet, L'nisavu ha'chachomim v'neviim yemei Moshiach, lo kidei sheyishletu al kol ha'olam, the chachomim and the neviim, they didn't desire Mashiach to rule over the world, v'lo kidei sheyirdu b'goyim, not to control the goyim, v'lo kidei sheyinasu oisam ma'amim, not that the goyim should lift the Yidden up, v'lo kidei lechel v'lishtes v'nismoyach, not even to eat and drink and be happy. Elo kedei sheyiu pnuyim b'Torah v'chachmasa. They should be able to be ponoi to learn Torah and Chachma. If we want an elam chatire b'chayecha or me'ein elam haba of pnuyim b'Torah v'chachmasa, I think that really applies to yeshiva bachrim, u'befrat to bachrim and temchet mimim. They're ponoi, learning to learn Torah and Torah b'chachmasa. No daiges aparnosa, no daiges of achilu shtia and simcha. Mamish, there's only time to sit and learn Torah. Mamish me'ein elam haba. V'lo yiyeh lehem neges mevatel. There should be no one being mevatel. Kedei sheyisku lechaye ha'olam haba kibei shebiyanu b'ilchus tshuva, in order to be zeichet lechaye ha'olam haba. The diuk what the Rambam writes, kedei sheyisku lechaye ha'olam haba, is well known. That the Rambam's shita is that the tachlis aschar is not tchias hamesim or neshamas begufim, but rather afterwards there will be a zman of oilam haba of neshamas beloi gufim. And that's bepashtos what the Rambam means here, kedei sheyizke lechaye ha'olam haba. Chassidus brings the Ramban, who argues with the Rambam, and Chassidus paskins with the Ramban. Just to note, everything is bediuk. If you'll take a look in the Nusach HaTfilah of the Rambam, on Uvoletzion, where the Rambam says there, v'nizke, v'nichye, v'nire, v'nirashteva, l'shnei yemeisa Mashiach, our Nusach is, u'lechaye ha'olam haba. The Rambam's Nusach is, b'diuk l'shitosei, l'shnei yemeisa Mashiach, k'dei shenizke lechaye ha'olam haba. That in order that we should be zeicha afterwards to chaye ha'olam haba, l'shitosei, that the tachlis aschar is not yemeisa Mashiach, but rather chaye ha'olam haba. And in the last halacha, the Rambam writes, "Ube'isei hazman le'yeh shom le'rov v'lei milchama." There will not be any hunger and no milchama. V'lei kina v'tacharus. There will be no jealousy nor competition. And as the Rebbe explained once in a sikha, that bepashtus kina v'tacharus refers to gashmi is dike kina and gashmi is dike tacharus. However, kina v'tacharus in Torah, kina soifrim tar b'chochma. Adarabe. L'chiyore, there will be the ultimate of kina in kedusha and Torah and chochma. Nevertheless, the Rebbe says, the pshat in the Rambam is, there will be no kina v'tacharus afilu in Torah. The Rebbe brings a Gemara that says the Talmidei Chachomim will be man'imim zeh zeh. Adarabe. They will assist each other in Torah and in Chochma. Mit einer zum zweiten verginnen mit dem ganzen Herzen in Chidusha Torah. There will be no kina v'tachlis. Sha'ateva tiyeh mushpa'as harbe v'chol hamadanim mitzuyim ki'ofor, because the teva good will be much, and all the madanim will be mitzuyim ki'ofor. And the Rebbe always mentioned kimat every time the pshat madanim mitzuyim ki'ofor doesn't only mean that there will be a lot, and it will be a lot like ki'ofor, like the dust of the earth, but rather they will be nechshav ki'ofor. We won't even be interested in the madanim. And the Asik of the whole world will be only Lodasis Hashem. Therefore, there will be Yidden will be Chachamim G'daylim, and they will know Dvarim Stumim, Hastumim, hidden things. Yasigu das Bayram Kifikoyach Ha'adam. They will have a hasoga in the Eibishten's das of what's able for a person to be able to be masik. Shenema, like it says, Ki molo ha'rezdeyes Hashem kamayim layom mechasim. The Rebbe once in a sikhe, many sikhes discussed the last halacha of the Rambam. Just to repeat one nekuda, one word that the Rebbe said on this last halacha in the Rambam. Rebbe asked Akasha. First of all, the Shaila the Rebbe asked in many different sikhes, many times. In Tafshin Mem Tes, a few times. It's mitzayin to it. Why does the Rambam mitzayim the Sefer with Kamayim Layom Mechasim when the Nilchas Tshuva? He also brings the same teichen, and he finishes off with Kimol Ores Deis Hashem. In addition, the Rambam writes, Lefichoch yu Yisrael Chachomim G'dolim v'yoidim Dvorim Hastumim v'yasigu das Boiram Kifi Koyach Adam. Yedu Dvorim Hastumim, the pashtus, what does Dvorim Hastumim mean? hidden things. Yasigu das boiron is Yediyas Hashem. Dvorim astumim bepashtus, if you read the words taken out of context, doesn't necessarily refer to Hasaga and Yediyas Hashem. What is Dvorim stumim? We can imagine. There are many hidden things in the world that we don't know. Many things that the scientists are still breaking their head to try to figure out. Many chochmes that not everyone knows. Even these dvarim stumim, the Yidden will be chachamim g'dolim and they'll know these dvarim stumim. In addition to knowing dvarim stumim, will also have yasik das boidam, will know asaga and yediyah salakus kifikay achadam. However, bepashtus, if the Rambam says lo yeh eiser kol ha'olam elo lo das Hashem bilvat, if the Yidden will only be involved in Yediyas Hashem, why would it be necessary for the Yidden to know Dvarim Hastumim? Why do we have to know stam hidden things that are l'ch'oire not connected directly with Yediyas Hashem? It's very nice to know Dvarim Stumim. It's nice to know all the hidden secrets of the world. It would be nice to know them now. But b'shas b'oisei azman, when Mashiach comes, l'maynav kimine for asogas alakus. If lo yeiser kol oilam elo l'dases Hashem bilvat. Muzman Zogan, says the Rebbe, that to know dvarim hastumim, the hidden secrets of the world, is also connected to Yediyas Hashem. Is also connected to asogas Hashem. L'chayre, what's the shaykhs? And the beard is, based on the Haschol in the beginning of the Rambam, in Hilchis Yesoidei HaTorah, the Rambam is Meirich Barichis in the first 4 Parakim, Maise Bereshis, Maise Merkava first, and then Maise Bereshis. By the way, Al Samaymer HaMuzgir, Shaloi Keto So'ilam, that the first 4 Parakim are not the real Kaviyachal Halachis of the Rambam. The real Halachis of the Rambam Kaviyachal begin in Perek Hey, where the Rambam begins the mitzvahs and the halachas, in addition to just the first mitzvah of Anochi and La'yilacha. Chas v'sholem. The first parakim are part of Hilchis Yesoidei HaTorah. Yesoid HaYesoides V'amud HaChochmes. All the parakim in the Rambam about Maise Merkava, Maise Bereshis are all a chelik of the Yesoides of Torah Mamash. The Chiyore, the Rambam is doch a sefer halachas. Why is it so important for the Rambam to be meirich in Maise Bereshis in a Sefer Halacha? Now it's true that the Rambam says, hey, yes, there's a mitzvah of Avos Hashem, there's a mitzvah of Yiras Hashem. And the Rambam explains to us that through Yediyah and Maise Merkava and Maise Bereshis, that brings us to Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem. And it's Ken Gorzayin that it's a chelik of the hisbonenus of Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem. Nevertheless, the Rambam doesn't bechlal give us the details of a hisbonenus. He should tell us, you have to go ahead, learn Maise Bereshis, learn Maise Merkava, find yourself svarim, find yourself teachers. That is a chiyuv in order to come to Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem. Why does the Rambam meirich so much in telling us these pratim of how to come to Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem? And the Rebbe is mechadish here that the idea of Maise Bereshis and Maise Merkava is not just a hisbonenus to bring us to Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem, but it's a chelik of mitzvahs Yediyas Hashem. Part of the Yodaita and Das Alekei Avicha, part of the Yediyah of the Hashem, of the Metzias of the Eibishter and the Ashpoas of the Eibishter, v'chulu, is chelik of them is Maise Bereshis and Maise Merkava. Because through Maise Bereshis, through knowing the secrets of the Brias Ha'olam, that itself is rayis on the Eibishter, that helps us in Yediyas Hashem. As much as Maise Merkava, about the Malachim and Ruchnis Dikinyonim, help us in Yediyas Hashem, Maise Bereshis also is a chelik of Yediyas Hashem. And the Rambam himself is koilel all the 4 prakim in one inyan in the end of the Perek Dalet, which tells us that all 4 prakim are one inyan in addition to Ava and Yirid, also part of Yediyas Hashem. Which the Rebbe always told us and writes in the Brief and in the Siches, if you'll see, that all the kvayochel hidden in yonim of the Bria So'ilam, whether it's certain scientific discoveries, etc., the Rebbe always used them not only as a hero in Avodas Hashem, but he also used them as a raya on Metzias Hashem, kipshutoi, that they themselves prove the existence of the Eibishter. And that's what the Rambam is telling us. It's also meduyik when the Rambam tells us that what I'm explaining here is only a drop of the arichas that could be learned in Maisa Merkava and Maisa Bereishis. So the Rebbe explains the chiluk in the Lashonis in different places. One time the Rebbe said the chiluk is like this. Concerning Maisa Bereishis, the Rambam writes, it's only kimar midli. It's like a drop in the bucket. Maisa Merkava, the Rambam uses it's kitipa min hayam. What's the chiluk? Chiluk is because as much as Maisa Bereishis, we can understand the Eibishter, but that Havana and Yesoga and Yediyah is mugbul. Because we're having a hisbonenus in something that's a gashmi, a chibur of a goylem betzura, as the Rambam calls it. Masha'enken, when we're dealing with Maisa Merkava is a soga in a lekus. A lekus is bli gvul. To have an emesa soga in bli gvul is doch impossible. But Mela, the Rambam uses the Lashon kimar midli because by Maisa Bereishis, a dli is a bucket. It doesn't represent bli gvul. So the inyonim that I'm teaching you, says the Rambam, is takia a drop, but it's a drop in a dli, a drop in the bucket. Mashenke Maisa Merkava, it's takia tipa. I'm teaching you only a tipa, one drop, but it's a tipa from the yam. What's yam? Famous dinim b'sichti yevamis, and in Hilchis, in Simen Yud Zayin, in Even Ezer, in Hilchis Ishis, concerning Agunis, that if Rachmana Litzlan, a person was nevad in Mayim she'ein lohem soif, the yam represents Mayim she'ein lohem soif. So then the halacha is different. If a person was Rachmana Litzlan nevad, he was lost in Mayim she'yesh lohem soif, which is also known as a breicha. The chiluk is in halacha that if a person was nevad in a breicha, Mayim she'yesh lohem soif, then you can assume that if you waited this man at she'teitzei nafshoi, that Rachmana Litzlan is not here anymore. Mashenkin in Mayim she'ein lohem soif, heyois it's ein lohem soif, it's kaviyachol bli gvul. It's possible that the person was oile in a different area. Nevertheless, the halach is under certain circumstances in Nisas loy teitzei. That says the yam represents bli gvul, even though bepoil mamish yecholim l'shayer kamo tipin yesh bayam. Aber sof kol sof, Torah calls it Mayim she'ein lohem soif. That says Tipa min hayam, the Rambam is telling you that the hasogya of Tipa min hayam is a yam of bli gvul of Mayim she'ein lohem soif. In a different place, the Rebbe also asks a shaila, Mar also represents connected. See, he feels down. For those who are learning it today. So l'chiyoyre, darf sein Punkt verkehrt. By a dli, where it's gvul, it should have said the lashon tipa min adli, because there's an erech, there's a shaychus between the tipa and the dli. Mashenke, by the yam, there should be l'chayre merirus. Why should there be merirus by the yam? Could you imagine you're one tipa of the ganze yam? Wer bist du? You're nothing. So Adarabe, why is the lashon there tipa? Rebbe's masbir that zu sein a Tippe von Blickwohl, to be a chelek of Blickwohl, in the Tippe drikt sich aus is also expressed the Blickwohl. There's a shaykhis and an erech between ein Tippe with the yam, with the Blickwohl, more than there is from the mar to the dli. Because ein Tippe von Blickwohl drikt sich in the Tippe oichet aus Blickwohl. The Rebbe says, if Maisa Merkava and Maisa Breishis are both connected to Yediyah Salikus, to Asaga Salikus, now the Siyum Rambam notes Tchiloson Besoifon, Vesoifon Betchiloson makes a lot of sense. That when the Rambam says V'yodim Dvorim Hastumim, what the Rambam is referring to is Take Maisa Breishis. The Rambam is referring to Take knowing the secrets of the world. That's what Dvorim Hastumim is. V'yodim Dvorim Hastumim. We can actually have a Hasogi in Dvorim Hastumim. Because it's a Hasogi in Gashmir. Those Yediyis are Negeya to Lodas es Hashem Bilvad. Because the Yediyah in Maisa Breishis is a chelik of Emunah Selikus and Yediyah Selikus. And that's what we're going to be learning be'oisei hazman. V'yasigu das boirom. Yasigu das boirom. That represents already Maisa Merkava. That's already das boire. Das of the Eibishter. Das of the boire yoilam, which is Maisa Merkava. Since that's a Yediyah Bligvul, so that's why the Rambam is Moisef over here, Kifikoyach Adam. Because the Yediyah, as it says in Chassidus and in Kabbalah, is only Yediyah Sashlila. It'll be the Tachlis HaYediyah Sashlila, because we're going to be Chachamim, G'doilim, Unevainim, but it's still only Kifikoyach Adam. But now that we know that Yasigu Das Beiram refers to the Yediyah of Blikvul, refers to Maisa Merkava, that's why the Rambam is Moisef here in Ochas Melachim, Kamayim Layom Mechasim. Because Kamayim Layom Mechasim represents Blikvul. Like the Yam, the Mayim is Mechasa, the Yam, and a Oifen from Blikvul because it's Kitipa Min Hayam. So the Rambam is finishing and telling us that the Iker Yediyah V'Asoge B'Zman HaMashiach B'Yisei Azman will be a Yediyah in Blikvul. I want to conclude that this word, that Tipa Min Hayam, even though it's one drop from the ganze Yam, Shaloi Be'erech the Tipa. Nevertheless, it's Meloshin Tipa. Nevertheless, in them Tipa is expressed the fact that it's Blikvul, it's a chelik of the Blikvul. L'chaira should also help us in our iskashrus, and particularly in Limud Rambam. Because sometimes we feel, the Rebbe said to learn Rambam, there are hopefully hundreds of thousands and tens of thousands of Yidden who are learning Rambam. Does it really matter? Does my Rambam really matter today? And if I won't learn Rambam today, doch nicht gefährlich, ich bin Zachakel Atipo Min Hayam. That's all I am. I'm one person. Is the teretz if you're a tipa min hayam, is the yam drikt sich in the tipa. The tipa expresses the ganze yam. The bleak vul of everyone learning Rambam is expressed in the tipa in every single individual person. Benoisef, mi ani, the Rebbe Taki said to learn Rambam. The Rebbe, Judea Kolotera Kula. The Rebbe is doch Blikvul. Wer bin ich zu lernen Rambam? Teich der Rebbe Ketipa Min Hayam. Der Blikvul from the Mesaken Atakone, der Yam, drikt sich ois oichet in dem Tipa. In the drop. We're talking a drop. Nothing more. Aber der Tipa drikt ois dem Blikvul and gives us the ultimate iskashrus zum Rebbe.